destroying this goddamn platform or trying to destroy this goddamn platform. And it's crazy. And no, Twitch will not die soon. I know everybody always says this dumb shit, but no, I don't think Twitch is going to die soon, guys. I don't think that like a bunch of loser brigaders are going to cause the entire platform to collapse.
People who I again said should be using their platforms to try and organize or try and make positive change in the world at a time, especially if you're an American, where the right have now effectively won every single branch of government. That should be what you're focusing your attention on. Not can we weaponize this so that we get rid of Hasan. We're participatory intellectual politics. Overall, young people didn't vote. People were so quick again to point the finger at Gen Z and be like, it was Gen Z, it was that generation. They're sexist and they're racist, and it was Muslims too who didn't vote for Harris Waltz and all that kind of shit. Gen Z just didn't show up as many people didn't show up. Gen Z, the numbers went down like I think almost 10 percentage points from the last election in their participation in this election. And you can be like, well, fuck them for not participating. Well, yeah, are you giving them reasons to participate? Are you giving them things to be hopeful for? Because the far right are indoctrinating them real rapidly. The far right are very, very concerned about choosing every venue and avenue possible, and they don't only have to look towards video games, they can look towards self-improvement. Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, Fresh and Fit, Sneeko, Just Pearly Things, every single one of them. Hey, the manosphere, this entire network media apparatus is also closely tied to white supremacist ideology. Weird that, funny that, MAGA as well. Weird that, funny that. But it's just filtering all these people down these pipelines. And we don't ever hold big tech accountable. We don't care. They're just like, free to do whatever they want. And meanwhile, all the algorithms, again, continue to push all this bullshit over and over. And they dominate. They dominate a lot of online spaces. I've got an article on this. Research Center, a nonpartisan research organization, published a page of a 122-page report that found the news influencer landscape skews male and leans disproportionately conservative, creating a concerning imbalance in our online news landscape that could ultimately have a profound political consequence. We've already felt it. The report is the results of months of research and analysis consisting of surveying over 10,000 U.S. adults about their news consumption habits and analyzing data from hundreds of news content creators across social platforms. According to the Pew sample, men dominate the news influencer space by a margin of roughly 2 to 1, comprising 63% of all news content creators compared to just 30% who are women. This gender disparity is compounded by a political tilt. 27% of news influencers explicitly identify as conservative, significantly outnumbering the 21% who lean liberal, a gap that balloons on platforms like Facebook, where right-leaning influencers outnumber left-leaning ones by a staggering 3 to 1 ratio. 39% of news influencers explicitly identify as conservative on Facebook, compared with just 13% who identify as liberal. Nearly 2/3 of news influencers are men. In a media environment where about 4 in 10 adults under 30 regularly get the news from news content creators, this imbalance isn't just inequitable. It's a systemic distortion of public discourse that ultimately undermines democratic values, entrenches conservative messaging, and accelerates polarization. I've written before about how desperate the left needs to build an infrastructure to amass online influence. These stats highlight just how urgent the mission is. Now, when you say the left, by the way, another problem here being that they're identifying people who are right-leaning and people who are liberal, not people who are liberal, people who are center-right, people who are Republican or right, and people who are far-right, like Nick Fuentes and now Fresh and Fit and the extreme neo-Nazis or the anti-Semites who are peddling in Jewish conspiracy theories and other shit like that, and the people who are liberal or who are leftist. And the people who are leftist, I would posit, but don't have proof in the study, are even smaller. So yes, there's a chunk of some liberal influencers, but the vast majority of the biggest podcasters are going to be libs. And the vast majority of people who are on mainstream television, who also get promoted from being podcasters or being Twitch influencers, etc., are going to be libs. The big variance and exception happens to be Hasan Piker, who again now is being collectively targeted by H3H3, DGG, Asmongold, 3 massive communities. All 3 of those combined with 3 massive Reddits, all collectively combining with politicians like Richie Torres and organizations that support Israel like AIPAC and the ADL to target him specifically for being anti-Semitic and to target a leftist who again has been promoting pro-Palestinian viewpoints. If they actually succeed in taking down Hasan, that will change the dynamic of Twitch politics entirely. Because every single person who does politics for a living, who is a leftist, who does support, again, a free and liberated Palestine or supports Palestinian causes or supports land back or indigenous causes locally here in Canada, stuff like that, will feel terrified, even more so than they already do. I can't say the Z word anymore. Now I got to say the Z word instead of the word that, I'm all replacing the Z word with, right? Z word for Canadian listeners. I can't say it anymore because it's been added to the protected categories. There is some nuance to the way the TOS is written about it, and there's some nuance to the way that you're allowed to talk about it. Certainly, there's going to be a distinction, I would hope, in some cases between people who are trying to use exclusive dog whistles to refer to Jewish people and people who want to conflate the actions of a foreign government, say the government of Israel, with all Jewish people, as, again, mainstream politicians and mainstream media in Canada often does, and as mainstream politicians and mainstream media in the US often does. This idea where you could by definition be anti-Semitic if you criticize the actions of Israel, not making a distinction between the two, associating all Jewish people with the actions of Israel, something that I feel to be profoundly anti-Semitic. I speak out against anti-Semitism constantly on my show. I've been doing it as long as I've been doing media. I speak out against racism of all forms. I'm someone who wants to punch up, to punch structures of power, to punch, again, the wealth disparity and all these hierarchies that are, again, exacerbated by capitalism, etc., and to recognize that there are far-right neo-Nazis, KKK members, whatever you want to call them, neo-reactionaries, pundits, who do target Jewish people just for being Jewish. Nick Fuentes does that constantly. He's not secretive. He's not using coded language. He doesn't wear even as many masks now as he ever did because he's a virulent anti-Semite. He's a disgusting anti-Semite who will spread Jewish conspiracy theories that Jewish people control the media, who will spread Jewish conspiracy theories that they are puppet masters, pulling strings and controlling all aspects of politics and stuff like that. Blatant lies that I'm now seeing regurgitated by Fresh and Fit, by people on that show. That's supposed to be a men's betterment program, and I go on there and the guy is again spreading Nick Fuentes tier neo-Nazi conspiracy theories about how Jewish people control everything and have all the power in society and that we've all been lied to and all this kind of shit. Well, yeah, you can work out, you can build your muscles, and also you should learn about neo-Nazi conspiracy. You should learn the elders of the protocols of Zion. That's part of the men's betterment program, apparently. That shit. This is the shit that should be called out and targeted. If you are looking to stop, again, the defamation of Jewish people, to stop anti-Semitism, you should target the people who are doing that instead of people who are criticizing Israel and associating the actions of Israel with all Jewish people, something that is deeply dangerous and anti-Semitic itself. And this, danger that comes right now from one of the largest streamers on Twitch now collectively being attacked by all of these other massive content producers, and now getting the support of people like Mizkif, who's talking about this adpocalypse that's coming out, and being like, we do need to talk about the adpocalypse. This is happening. We've got to look out, all right? This is a problem on Twitch where these advertisers don't want to advertise because of how anti-Semitic Hasan Piker is being. The political label that just got added, that I and every other political streamer has to add to his streams, that makes you not show up in search results, that makes no ads run on your platform. I was only getting, before any of this stuff happened, about $30 to $40 from ad revenue. I was not making a lot of money off ads on Twitch. That's peanuts compared to the amount of, viewers, if there's 250 or 300 live viewers on Twitch only, but thousands and thousands of people who watch the VODs after. You should be getting more than $30 a month. That's literally nothing, but now it's zero. And that zero comes from the fact that political label is effectively on the advertiser end, meaning that advertisers will not have their ads play alongside anyone who's doing politics in a rush to be like, all right, we don't want to create controversy because clearly there's controversy we're not addressing, because again, Hasan Piker is being falsely smeared as being anti-Semitic because of his criticism of the action of the Israeli government. And now, in the same way that YouTube had this thing happen, right? YouTube went through multiple adpocalypses. That's what they've been called. Where time and time again, they would have all these neo-Nazi accounts and Groypers and Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones and all these racists on their platform. And then Coca-Cola ads would play before their videos. And then people were pointing out, this is pretty fucked up. Are you going to do something about that? So they've adjusted multiple times how their ads run. And advertisers have an option where they get to pick what kind of content their ads run on. For some people, they got no scruples. They don't care. They don't care if their ads play on a far-right reactionary channel like Salty C-Word. So they're just going to be like, you know what? I have a mobile game. I don't care who downloads it. I don't care if far-right people download it. I don't care who my ads play on. Our mobile game, MILF Hunter 50,000 or whatever, is going to play on all ads. And so when you get limited ad revenue, MILF Hunter 55,000 will play on all of those kind of things. And then there are people like Coca-Cola who are like, we care about our brand. Our brand has to be commercial. Our brand has to be ad safe. We don't want to play on a Nick Fuentes video. We don't want to play on a neo-reactionary video. We don't want to appear on that. So we want to have not ads play on those kind of people. You'll see if you get a limited ad, you won't get Coca-Cola ads playing on it. Twitch for right now is starting to like get in that phase where they're like, all right, we need to do things. We need to make sure that ads don't play alongside potentially inflammatory views, which are being falsely smeared on, again, Hasan for making all of what they feel is now, like I've seen that people are posting that he's like promoting terrorism by playing songs. One of the songs that he had played was not a terrorist anthem. It was like a Korean song, but that was enough for them. It was in a scary new language I haven't heard before. Yeah, Korean? Either way, he was playing a song in a car, and now they're saying like he was playing a terrorist anthem, and because he played a terrorist anthem that like he is a terrorist sympathizer. Once again, it seems like the racism towards either Muslim people or Arab people or people who fall within the categories of Islamophobia is completely tolerated and fine, or ableist slurs. You can be a streamer on this platform and just be like, R word, R word, R word, you're an R word. These people are R words. This is an R word slur, R word slur, R word slur. Like that one's totally fine, ad friendly. Yeah, do not worry about that. But then if you have a stream where again, you're like, it seems like the actions of the Israeli government are genocidal. They are doing a forced starvation of children. This is an abomination. This is the worst of humanity that we are seeing before our eyes as children are dying and starving. We have to do something about that. That sentence alone can now be characterized, if you use the Z word in addition to anything, as anti-Semitic, because you were criticizing the Israeli state specifically, but that has been associated with all Jewish people, and so that's going to be something that's not ad friendly. It's a really, really scary thing while this is happening. Again, while there's really seriously fucked up shit going on in the world, this has been such a barometer for myself just to see how many people are taking any of this seriously. The genocide of Palestinians, they don't care about people overseas. That's fine. But do you pretend to care about the far right as much as you say you do? If you're a liberal streamer or a center-right streamer or a liberal associated streamer where you're using all of your resources, you're like, I'm not MAGA, I'm not Trump, I don't support that, okay? I am anti-MAGA, anti-Trump. I hate that shit. I hate the far right. I hate those Nazis. I hate all that shit. Okay, fine. What are you using your resources for right now then? You have thousands of people who watch you in those communities. You can be getting them to do letter campaigns, to be canvassing, to be organizing, to be building up some kind of a resistance, a liberal resistance to what you're seeing is a lot of people who are now engaged in politics who happen to be far right and doing everything in your power to try and stop that. Instead of letter writing campaigns to Twitch, to Kotaku staff, to people asking for the removal of one Hassanabi, because he is the target. He is the thing we need to focus on. We need to get rid of him. He's the cause of all these problems. It's progressives. It's leftists. It's Bernie Sanders supporters. That's going to be our cause. We're all hyper-focused on this now. There's a Twitch apocalypse. There's all this problem. Let's get rid of Hassanabi specifically. Let's post clips of him. Let's mine for clips. Let's post every time he says something. Let's post out-of-context clips. Let's post tweets by content creators that don't actually exist or are real, but it doesn't matter as long as it takes them down. That's our cause. That's what we're going to be using our massive platforms for right now, of all things. And again, if they succeed, if they take him down, if he is removed for a month or something like that, it's really hard to remove someone who's huge, who gets, again, 30 or 40,000 live viewers, who is a brand ambassador, who is a face of the entire platform, who gets birthday songs by the staff of the platform sung to him. He is beloved, clearly, by Twitch, right? It's very hard to knock down someone of that size, but if they can do it through these routes, where they're getting the ADL, politicians, lawmakers like Richie Torres, and a bunch of massive communities to now dedicate their Reddits and their campaigns and their fans to work on this, to spend time another day emailing on their behalf, to be like, all right, everybody, here's our next mission. We need to do an email campaign where all of you take this clip, post this clip of him, do that. Well, what chance does anyone who's smaller than him have? Like, there's a reason why there's certain streamers' names you don't hear mentioned. It's not because people are necessarily afraid of that person as a person, or afraid to debate him, or afraid to, engage with him just on a one-on-one. They're afraid of those Reddits and communities and community drives, because they won't survive seconds. Like, you can see how fast a whole bunch of Arab streamers or Muslim streamers just get knocked off this platform for sometimes a month, if not permanent, when that happens, because they don't have the same kind of support or backing. And other people don't want to risk their own channels and stuff, and so they're not going to speak up about this, and they're not going to make campaigns about this, and they're not going to talk about this, and they're not going to do streams about this, because they're scared. They're scared that, holy shit, yeah, what am I to do? What, like, yeah, I've got a Discord and a small Reddit and I've got a big Twitter account or something like that, but like, goddamn, it feels lonely. It feels really lonely when they all go after you, and all of a sudden, all these Reddits have clips of you that are out of context. They're not things you believe. They've distorted who you are as a human being, and all of a sudden, you have thousands of hate emails or death threats, or you have thousands of people who are now posting all these clips and posting all over the internet saying all these things about you that you at your core know are not a part of who you are. It not only feels lonely, it just destroys part of who you are, because your ability to turn off the internet is inaccessible. You can't just, like, you know, your partner might tell you, hey, by the way, just like ignore it. It's hard to ignore when that's your life and your job. And when I go on to Twitter, all of a sudden there's thousands of people being like, hey, this person is essentially the same as Nick Fuentes. The left, they're indistinguishable at this point. They're all just as horrifying and anti-Semitic. They're all just as fucking vile and racist. Look at that. And look at this clip. And look at this out of context clip. And look at this thing. And look at that. And blah, blah, blah. It's impossible to fight up against that, because you don't have the same entrenched user base that an Asmongold has. Like Asmongold, who becomes super famous and a super big celebrity, internet celebrity, has, again, tens of thousands of viewers and then hundreds of thousands of people on his Reddit. Well, when they go after you, if all of a sudden every single one of them is like, Frogan says that apparently she wants veterans to get sick and die. Post this clip, email people, make sure people write articles about it. If they write articles defending her, make sure that those people at the same time, they get email campaigns against them, and they get Reddit campaigns against them, and they get all this shit against them. And so, of course, all of a sudden, it's very, very dangerous for anyone to speak up, even people as big as Hasan, who seems to be the big fish that every single one of them is like taking out or trying to take down, right? At a certain point, they'll get that clip. At a certain point, for someone who talks 8 hours a day, he's going to slip up and maybe he'll say now the Z word. He'll say it out loud, and then they'll be like, oh, see, he's using that. That was clearly a dog whistle. He was trying to refer to all Jewish people in this clip. Factually true is not what the algorithms want to promote. They want to promote stuff that keeps you watching them nonstop. Right-leaning, 27%, left-leaning, 21%, but this was more defined as liberal, 52% explicitly express a political orientation, no clear orientation, 48%. I would say for this number, by the way, deeper research is needed. If you look at the majority of pop culture channels, video game channels, they skew right. And they say they're not political. They say they're concerned with pop culture. They're still right-leaning pop culture. They just consider civil rights to be wokeness. They consider civil rights to be DEI, bridge, and all the other words that they're always using, CRTs, now wokeness, etc. But these are people who are overtly political channels who consistently punch down and consistently vilify minorities and hate the presence of, different groups in their media. And so they use their entire platform to say, I'm non-political. I wish I didn't have to talk to you about this, but the new Dragon Age unfortunately went woke. We got to talk about this. All of these, so-called, game reviewers are saying it's an awesome game, giving it great reviews. That's because they've been bought out. They're cucked. And honestly, this whole thing sucks. It's got options for they, them. You can be non-binary. You can be trans. You can have relationships that are same-sex attractions. All of this, again, is woke DEI bridge. And what we see here, again, is the cucking of the video game industry. DEI destroys everything, and that's very political. Even if he says he's not political, he's saying political ass shit. Like, to him, it's not, because again, he feels that any movement towards any form of equality, aka having more options in the new Dragon Age, you can choose those things. You don't have to, though. You can play the game as a straight white man. You can do it. Heterosexual, cis, straight, white man. You can have that. That's your option. In fact, it might even be the default. I haven't played the game yet. But you can also choose other things. But the option to choose other things is being seen as oppression. And so that's why they're now turning it into politics. The people who have been banned on this platform so far as a result of these targeted campaigns have been Arab and Muslim streamers and people who've been speaking out about Palestine. And then I guess Mike from PA can be the exception for the hitman joke. There's that, but for the most part, yeah, they seem to be people who are consistently criticizing Israel and Israel's actions. And the largest streamer who does that happens to be Hassan Nabi. And if this is going to be a situation where now they're going to be like, hey, by the way, you can't use the Z word. If you do that, then, it could be conflated with anti-Semitism. And you have to watch what you say. And if enough clips get done, because they will find them, then we're going to be going after you and anyone who defends you or anyone who actually goes after any of these other streamers. I was wondering the other day, I think one of my clips popped up in an Asmongold Reddit because I was getting people in the chat and emails that are being like, Oh, there's that femboy Frenchman, fucking cuck, blah, 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 shit like that. And to be fair, first time anyone has actually ethnically identified one of the weird makeups that I am, because the Métis people are a combination of French colonizers. You are correct, sirs. I am part French. That is right. I also speak French. That is also correct. I speak Québécois French, which is why I'm allowed to make fun of XQC's accent. All right, not the rest of you. Only me. I'm the only one who gets it. C'est mes privilèges. Je vais utiliser comme je veux. But in addition to that, it's like, I can see why a lot of people, again, smaller people, don't want to use their smaller platforms to try and fight these people if, like, you know, you aren't able, A, to take a whole bunch of just, you know, baddies showing up and saying weird ass shit to you, or B, the real danger is that if you have mass flagging campaigns, if everyone's like, hey, by the way, take that clip right there, that person said a thing, take it out of context, put that on the internet, show that, you know, and then make sure that that person and do email campaigns, all this kind of shit. Well, you are going to silence their ability to speak up about any of this, or their ability to criticize it. It's basically, at the end of the day, the 1984 we all heard about.
No, why it's not? Because Islamophobia is institutionally permitted. Hello, welcome. Okay, understand the world that we exist in. Wake up. There's not really much I can do about it. It is what it is. Read the examples it gives under enforcement notes. It seems fine. Where is it? The language used to review. We want to make sure that our hateful conduct policy continues to be flexible and cover terms that may be used to cause harm to others. We'll continue to evaluate. Yeah, I just think that, like, they're caving to like the, well, Zionism, people use it as a catch-all to say all Jews. And what they don't realize is when that happens, right? When that happens, then the same people that have been crying about it are going to turn around and say, look at all the times where they were talking about Zionism. This violates the policy. Why haven't you banned this guy? I'm telling you right now, it's like a two-step program, okay? That's precisely what they're going to do now. They have all my chats logged, like my community's chats logged. They're going to go back to the advertisers and be like, Twitch is not following through on its own enforcement policies. Look at all the times when, like, people have talked about Zionism, the political ideology, and Twitch itself now recognizes Zionism as a different way to say, you know, Jewish person, which is not true, right? I have talked over and over and over again under very academic settings about these sorts of values. Like, the hilarity of the situation is, this is unironically what conservatives used to complain about when they fantasized about, like, college campuses not letting free speech exist in an environment, and they're doing that. Like, there's never been a moment.
Well, it's projection, right? Because I heard nonstop back before Elon took over Twitter about how it was just like a mess, and it was it was just like this liberal cesspool where liberals dominated it. They had all the power, all the censorship happened towards Republicans, and liberals were allowed to do whatever they wanted. And then, so why don't we look at studies? And studies would come out showing that no, the algorithm is not favoring specifically liberal speech or liberal dialogue or anything like that, and it's not intentionally censoring right-wingers. A lot of people on the right seem to be unable to follow a very simple rule that they've been trying to establish, that you shouldn't be able to dehumanize trans people, and that you shouldn't be able to use language that dehumanizes them. And that seems to be a policy that none of them who are just like so happy to be like, hey, by the way, biological boys aren't girls and girls aren't boys and all that kind of stuff are getting roasted for. So because you can't follow through on that, it just seems to be a thing that you're just not going to follow their clear guidelines, and you feel like you're being attacked because of it. But there isn't a demonstratable with data, like analysis of this, that shows that right-wingers have more privilege on Twitter in the previous administration. Now that it's been taken over, holy fuck, the entire thing has become exactly what they thought the liberals were doing under Elon Musk, where it's like now he's clearly turned the whole thing into a pro-Trump MAGA platform. He's uncensored and allowed every single like neo-Nazi under the sun to like return and have their accounts back and then spread all the hate speech that they want. And he's turned things like the term cis into a slur, the term colonizer into a slur, and those are the words that he wants to like specifically censor. And as long as like this conflation keeps being tolerated, where it's like, hey, by the way, if you criticize Israel, you are criticizing all Jewish people. Well, that is anti-Semitism. That is, again, conflating all Jewish people with the actions of a sovereign government. That is wrong, and like that's something that I try to fight against. But that ability to do so is now going to have to be something that everyone takes incredibly like serious and careful, because you cannot use the term. You can't say it. It's now, a word in which it's going to be, well, were you using it as a dog whistle? Were you trying to use it as a code word when you really wanted to be racist? And again, the Nick Fuentes, the Fresh and Fits, the people, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the people who are overtly anti-Semitic, spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories are just very, very vocal about their intentions and their goals. And that clip from the Fresh and Fit podcast the other day where he just goes on an anti-Semitic horrifying rant. He's not choosing his words carefully. He's not using code words. He's not using dog whistles at that point. Like, he's just basically fully Myron. He's fully mask off and just spreading, again, the same anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that you would find from the Elders of Zion, right? Like, that shit is clearly something that, like, him hanging out with Nick Fuentes, having him on the show, Nick Fuentes getting promoted, is allowing a lot of anti-Semites to try and normalize this kind of dialogue. The same thing happened last year when Ye was going on all these different shows, and clearly all the right wanted to normalize anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and he was going to be their entry point to that. First, it was Tucker Carlson, who censored and cut out some of the very, very anti-Semitic parts of his speech to try and normalize the less extreme ones. Then it was, Tim Pool, who was just not equipped to try and have that conversation, and brought on Nick Fuentes as well, where they were, again, trying to spread anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, talking about how Jewish people control the media, and using they as a dog whistle in the same way the alt-right does when they were like, they, you know who they is, right? That's a dog whistle. He's referring to all Jewish people when he says that, so he can try and safely criticize all Jewish people and be racist while at the same time not as overtly sounding as anti-Semitic as he truly is. Then he goes on Alex Jones's show, and he was so wild that even Alex Jones was scared and basically like, holy shit, what the fuck? When you say that you love Hitler, you're talking about the costumes, the outfits. You're saying that you like the way they dress. And he's like, no, I'm not. And so, like, even Alex Jones was like, whoa. And all of them afterwards, when you listen to their interviews, right? Even Gavin McInnes was saying that he's right about some things, but he's gone too off the deep end. He's gone way too far towards the Nazi shit and towards the Hitler shit. So I want to pull him back to the part that I want, which is to normalize anti-Semitism, to normalize this conspiracy theory that Jewish people control the media. That's what they were trying to do. And so Gavin McInnes said that out loud. Alex Jones was also saying the same thing. He's like, while he is right about some things, and that's the part that I wanted to bring him on to talk about, he's clearly way too far away, and he's gone off into this whole pro-Hitler, pro-Nazi stuff. And that stuff is like, that's a little too far for us, right? That's a little too extreme. But we want him kind of somewhere closer to our beliefs, which are anti-Semitic, that we want to normalize. We want more people to say this kind of, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and spread that shit.
Where I haven't specifically offered context, like historical context or analysis in this sort of stuff when I'm covering these sorts of issues. And yet it's so easy to just like rob it of its context and just be like, no, this guy is anti-Semitic. This guy is hateful. And then basically repeat it over and over and over again and like bully advertisers as well who are afraid of political content regardless. And then Twitch is scared of massive losses of revenue, or even like Amazon, coming down the hammer and striking Twitch in a meaningful way. So they just like cave. It's people very cynically using a lot of these organizations' lack of interest in getting into any controversy or putting themselves out there in any meaningful fashion. It's basically them, caving to this. It's caving to like very clearly cynical losers who are falsely smearing people as like anti-Semitic from a platform that has like literally straightforward Nazi, like a platform that houses Nazis. You know what I mean? Like, these are kick streamers yelling about Twitch. It's so obvious what's going on, and it's not even hidden. You know what I mean? Look, this is from their own subreddit, right? The guy who's doing this, Dan Can't Stream, he's like the main guy. No bad tactics, only bad targets. They would just as soon use these methods on you. Strategy number one of the CIA when they want to topple a far/left government is to create infighting. You are not MAGA enough. You are not a real freedom fighter. To my knowledge, the CIA doesn't engage in canvassing operations or advocacy. This tactic should have been left to the Autism Squad or whatever the secret DG operatives call themselves. Destiny may lose credibility as an advocate for democracy if he allows or supports his community in sharing information with fascist, democratic media figures. Turning the fascist machinery against itself is a fair game. It's effective warfare, and I completely disagree with your Hyro take. This is when they were talking about going to libs of TikTok. Libs of TikTok. Chaya Raichik is that transphobic loser that they were collaborating
and
with.
An extremist.
And his own community was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you working with these fascists to try to take down Twitch. And he basically was like, I don't care. I just want to take them down. I will work with whoever I can. I've heard they have a Tom Cotton collab in the works as well. And it's like, that's it. You are having one of the most far-right orgs take down far-left content, both of them hating Jews, creating huge stress for the moderates of both parties and forcing both to want to distance from them. The meme of this is a weapon of the enemy. We do not need this for anime. In real life, we pick up the proverbial gun and shoot the motherfucker. Not just yelling, but also engaging in Islamophobia in the process of calling out hate speech. Very weird. They aren't going to stop until Hasan is banned. They straight up said it, lol. I know. And like, they don't care. That's the worst part about it, is that like, look, in their endless like interest of getting Destiny unbanned, which is like what Dan openly said he wanted to do, or get me banned, one or the other, right? They're basically fucking destroying this goddamn platform, or trying to destroy this goddamn platform. And it's crazy. And no, Twitch will not die soon. I know everybody always says this dumb shit, but no, I don't think Twitch is going to die soon, guys. I don't think that like a bunch of loser brigaders are going to cause the entire platform to collapse. It's just, like I said, it's still very, very frustrating. It's very frustrating to see that like these guys are basically botting mass email campaigns talking about how anti-Semitic the platform is over and over again, and it is the least anti-Semitic out of all the platforms out there. And I say this as someone who combats anti-Semitism on a regular basis, and I'm losing my mind because the people that are doing it are literally collaborating with Nazis on the platform with actual Nazis. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, and in the process, they're like that's the other thing. There's like there are a ton of Jewish content creators on Twitch. If you were to ask them personally, and Nandre can attest to this as well as many others, they would say that like this is an infinitely safer platform than all these other places. And these guys that have been banned for violating those terms of service are so mad, so butthurt that they can't stop being edgy, that like they want to blow it up and destroy the platform and for a bunch of Jewish content creators in the process as well as everybody else. Creative mischief, you're missing this part. Oh, here. Prohibited example, Zionist, name of animal. Allowed example, Zionist settlers keep encroaching Palestinian borders. Yeah, we prohibit the use of terms that may not be harmful or abusive in isolation, but can be used as a slur to denigrate others in certain contexts. Yeah, that's basically it. Similar to terms that may be used as a proxy for protected group, we treat Zionists as a proxy for Jews or Israelis if the word is used in a context to promote harm or violence, or when used to make dehumanizing comparisons, or perpetuate anti-Semitic stereotypes. Comments regarding Zionism that are about the political movement, including criticism, do not violate our hateful conduct policy. Comments that call for violence against Zionism as a political movement, or comments that would otherwise violate our policies, are not allowed. Okay? So that's it. You can't use it as a pejorative. You can talk about it as a political movement. And I know a lot of you are going to want to try and use it as a pejorative. And every single person that's like saying that right now, every single person that's like using that as a pejorative is getting logged. You're most likely going to get banned from the platform. Okay. Not only are you going to get banned from the platform, but before you get banned from the platform, Destiny will use the things that you're saying in the chat. And his community will use the things that you're saying in the chat to try to get me banned from the platform as well. I'm just letting y'all know.
This is a website doing deep data analysis. We have a live stream of Hasan's Discord and Denim's Discord and everyone else's Discord to another Revolt, which is kind of like another Discord server. So we can go in there at any time and we can search for any message. Even if they wipe everything, we still have it. Good. So we've been doing that for like a year.
Twitch is going against UN resolutions. No, it doesn't matter. They're not like as aggro, and they're not doing they're not going as aggro as like the IHRA definition. Okay, literally like saying you can't say Nazis are bad. No, it's not like that. You can say Zionism is a harmful political ideology. I agree it's dumb to capitulate, but it also seems like it's the same as the wheat thins controversy, so at least they're being consistent. Maybe I'm off base. It is no different than the wheat thins controversy, except this time when most people look at like anti-white racism as a joke, anti-Semitism is real, unlike anti-white racism or whatever. So obviously, while most brands don't have a problem with the term cracker, okay, when you establish guidelines and rules about Zionism in this way, and you basically say, no, the framing that like Zionism can be a catch-all.
Wait, are you allowed to just say it out loud, but you just can't use it as an insult? Is that it? I thought it was like, it was so heady that you had to like, and that's part of how silly the whole thing is that you actually have to be like, the C word, and people are like, what are you saying? Are you saying cunt? It's like, no, the C word, the ban word. Is a part of, minority groups who've been streamers. It doesn't matter, if they're, even women streamers, they face unbelievable amount of hatred and brigading and bigotry and all that kind of stuff. So there is a utility, obviously, in trying to keep people safe and then trying to, prevent people from spreading things like hate speech on a platform. The problem being is that there seems to be a pattern now where there's a number of very large communities that are directly trying to target the largest leftist streamer on the internet, specifically because this has been a very effective entry point because it's one that obviously is repeated both by, the U.S. politicians, the interests of the U.S. government, mainstream media, Canadian politicians, the interests of the Canadian government, and Canadian mainstream media. We have massive problems right now with a lot of journalists coming forward and doing whistleblowing on a number of institutions in this country, saying that they've been unable to properly report on what is taking place in Gaza because they are either edited, they are told not to run a story, they are told to use different language, they are worried about a backlash, particularly of being labeled as anti-Semitic, specifically because they are speaking about the actions of the Israeli government. And that, again, has created this environment where a lot of people, journalists included, and I'm not trying to conflate myself with them, by the way, just so we're completely clear, I am a complete, entertainer, streamer, garbage human, all right? We're podcasters and YouTubers, not journalists, but actual journalists have come forward. They've written articles, again, they've done The Breach, The Walrus, Press Progress have reported on this before, independent, media outlets in the country, about how a lot of journalists are now very, very frightened or have had trouble talking about this very issue, specifically because of these same problems. It's kind of become a modern day McCarthyism, where people who have been advocating against racism and advocating against anti-Semitism their entire careers and lives, myself included, now are in a position where it has to be incredibly precise how you discuss or use your language when discussing this particular issue, because there is now a potential weaponization of a conflation between speaking out against the actions of Israel and criticizing all Jewish people. There are bad actors without question. I, call them out all the time. Jackson Hinkle, Dan Bilzerian, people who have massive platforms or massive, reach, who are both anti-Semitic and speaking out against Israel, both of them simultaneously. And those are people who, again, will try and use potential dog whistles or will try and conflate the actions of the Israeli government with all Jewish people. It is a completely, I think, within the right of people, too, who do talk about this issue, to call them out as well. Because, again, they're racists, they're bad actors, they are spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories while at the same time trying to hide behind the banner of the pro-Palestinian movement, and in turn, damaging the pro-Palestinian movement by their actions. So by all means, call them out and continue to do so. It's part of the process. But people who are legitimately and who have advocated for their entire lives against targeting Jewish people, against anti-Semitism, against spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, who also want to talk about how the Israeli government is committing a genocide against Palestinians, shouldn't have to worry about censorship simply for speaking about that. You guys are jokers sitting there complaining about censorship when... Oh, I didn't get to read it. You got censored. Shit. Well, you got 1984 before I could read whatever foolish shit you were trying to put together.
Is like, these guys went to the New York Post and like every outlet they possibly could with this story, and no serious outlet took it seriously.
By the way, if you're still watching, I've never advocated for the mass banning of all of the streamers that I hate. If anything, I've had to tolerate a lot of the hate campaigns that come the other way. I've advocated for, what would be better, honestly, than having Asmongold banned off all platforms if he was actually banned off YouTube and shit like that? You know what would be way better than that? Way better than censoring him? If he fucking learned something. If rather than like he said he was going to, by the way, for Asmongold, if you were going out and you're like, hey, by the way, I really, like my dad is saying I'm becoming too negative. I really want to start changing my life. Here's what I'm going to do going forward. I'm not only going to clean my house and clean my fucking blood off the walls and the dead rats and all the fucking cockroaches and clean the dishes and get rid of all the McDonald's and all that shit. I'm also going to start being so mean, and I'm going to really start to try and learn more about these things before I talk about them, which makes sense to me. Because if you are a famous fucking World of Warcraft streamer, then yeah, suddenly entering politics for the first time, this is all new to you. Just like it would be for me to suddenly become a World of Warcraft commentator. If I sat down here, someone who doesn't play World of Warcraft, I play lots of video games, but that's not one of them, and I just started like making video after video about it just based on little clips that I saw, they'd probably be nonsense. A lot of people would be like, Lance, that's not what that does. You're not supposed to use the Mage's Forge to do that. I'd be like, oh, okay, shit, I don't know. I don't know much about that. That's what's happening in the opposite direction. We've got all of these now video game streamers who are trying to, do their foray into politics, and they are saying abhorrent and racist and fucked up shit. In the case of Asmongold, where he's sitting there being like, yeah, I don't care what happens to them. Talking about Palestinian children right now undergoing a forced starvation as their fucking families have been bombed to death, and being like, they come from an inferior culture. They're an inferior culture. I don't care what happens to them. Yeah, I hope they get genocided. They're inferior. Saying that out loud, 2-week span, and then being like, oh shit, a lot of people are really mad about this. You know what? I'm going to take this as a moment of self-reflection. I'm now going to do this thing where I better myself. I'm going to learn more about this. I'm going to clean my house. I'm going to clean my room, clean the dishes. Then I'm going to come back. He comes back and it's just been nonstop. DEI is ruining gaming. DEI is the problem with gaming. So much fucking DEI. I can't believe this. All these games have been ruined by fucking DEI. Well, you know what's better than him getting just like banned and censored in 1984 and all this shit? If he actually learned some stuff. Like I've seen Hasan debate him, and Hasan has to hold baby gloves and not be mean and be so patient, and he's basically explaining so many of these concepts for the very first time that when he hears them, suddenly he's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I guess I agree with that on principle. That makes sense. Okay, interesting. And it's like, yeah, okay, fine, you didn't know this, but you're not in a position to not know this and speak about it to 40,000 live kids. Like if you have 40,000 people watching you who are like, I love you when you play World of Warcraft, teach me more. And you're like, hey, by the way, did you know that this is an inferior culture and that they deserve their own genocide and all that kind of stuff? Well, that will have a very net negative effect on all those people who might suddenly believe you and be like, whoa, my hero, my parasocial daddy is saying these kind of things. Now I'm going to go over and I'm going to look up more people who say this kind of shit. And it looks like they're really aligned with like far right reactionaries. And they're the people who are saying the same things that you are. What a surprise that suddenly a lot of them are getting into all these right-wing spaces and stuff like that. Yeah, you do have a responsibility that if you are coming onto a platform to learn, you shouldn't go onto a debate with Hasan for the first time, suddenly realize half of this shit for the very first time live on stream, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, neat. Well, then, yeah, maybe instead of just cleaning your room, clean your room and open the Wikipedia article on the genocide of Palestinians. It's incredibly thorough at this point. It's a very long article. You don't have to open books. I'm not saying that you have to go read all these academics and go listen to speeches, by Dr. Gabor Mate or anything like that. If you just go to the Wikipedia article, just that in itself, the Wikipedia article on the genocide of Palestinians, you can see how horrifying their current lives are and how bad things have gotten and how fucked up it is to refer to children suffering this immensely on this scale, being mass starved as being subhuman or inferior or any of that kind of shit. How profoundly fucked up it is to do that. And then come back, yes, don't get censored, come back to your platform and then use that to teach your audience these things. I've read the Wikipedia article. It took me an hour, but I read it, and now I gotta say some things to y'all. It's really fucked up that I would say those things, because holy shit, is shit going down? Is shit ever fucked? Are children ever being forcibly starved? And I get why people get so emotional about this, because it's really fucking sad to see us doing this in this day and age, and I feel powerless. There's nothing I can do to stop it. I'm like watching horror on my screen every day when I turn on my computer, and that's really fucking bleak. And so I'm sorry for the things that I said. Like, that would be so much more beneficial than just being like, this man has to be canceled. I want to cancel him. Can we cancel him with 1984? Can we get him banned? If you ban him now on YouTube, the reality is he'll be on Kick the next fucking week with a $20 million contract, because he's got a huge audience, and he'll be saying even more vile shit, and he'll be surrounded by even more vile fucks who are going to reinforce the vileness. Every single one of them are just going to be, hey, by the way, who can I collaborate with now? I guess it's just other people who believe even more extreme shit, and now they're teaching me about these conspiracies I didn't know about, and did you know who controls the media, and did you know all this kind of stuff, until you've actually become a full-blown anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist spreading vile anti-Semitism. And this all started because you said you were trying to combat it, or this all started because you said you were taking this very seriously, and this is something that now really deeply concerns you. I no longer will do the World of Warcraft. It's World of Warcraft, and also this crusade that we have to go take upon ourselves kind of shit.
Engaging in it, but that's neither here nor there. Like the only people that would like take this kind of seriously.
Leonard, the problem with the left is that we like to teach, but you cannot teach those who don't want to learn. Well, I'm really guilty of this. I'll fully admit it. I'm like, case in point. There's a big thing and a big problem with people assume everyone already knows a lot of the things that they already are upset about. And liberals do this a lot, and leftists do this a lot too, where there's this condescension that comes along with, hey, by the way, why the fuck don't you know this? Like, you know, in the same way I do. I've read up on this. I know about this. You don't know about this. And so fuck you. And that's the reason why I can condescend to every single Trump voter, because every single one of you should have known better. You all should have known better, every one of you. And when I watch the interviews of the Trump voters who didn't vote for Trump because they hated women or wanted to see minorities be put in cages, they voted specifically because they had economic anxiety. And it's like, why did you vote? Well, I don't like the guy, but I voted for him because I can't afford groceries. And honestly, it's really hard to pay rent and I can't afford a home. My family's having a lot of trouble. And so I just thought maybe they'd do better because I haven't got any results from Democrats. I get the knee-jerk reaction to that is like, but they're not. They're going to be worse. Things are going to be worse. You idiots. Why the fuck are you so stupid? You know, just to go off on that. And I'm not listening to him. I'm not listening to his actual concerns there. I'm not listening to those actual concerns that people have, and neither are the Democrats, and neither are the Democratic pundits, and neither are liberals in Canada. No one is listening to that because they're just going to continue to exacerbate the same inequality. And I can say a sentence like that out loud, neat. It's like, they're exacerbating the inequality. These unjust hierarchies are created by the capitalist exploitation of labor. But he doesn't know that. And he's looking for help, as are a lot of people. They don't know that, and they're just sitting there, and they're like, I get two options, A or B. A has not helped. What about B? B didn't help either. I'll try A. That, like, if you look at that poll that shows where people have voted in Western democracies, they've been voting for the opposite party that could form power overwhelmingly. It's just been like switch, because all of these problems keep getting worse and worse. And if you sit there and you're trying to fix it, you're also at the same time thinking, well, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why the fuck would you have done that? Don't you know better? Don't you know? He's going to be trash. He's going to make your life worse. He's going to make the rich way richer. He is an elite by definition. He's a billionaire. He's going to make the lives of billionaires better. He's already doing it out loud. The day he got elected, the next day, billionaires got a record like $60 billion in their stock values. The markets and the rich and the whales are like, whoa, fuck yeah, we're pouring all this money into the stock market now. Look how much richer we're getting. But that doesn't change the fact that millions and millions of people who were not hardcore MAGAs, there are millions of hardcore MAGAs, sure, and there are millions of racists, and there are millions of white supremacists, and all that shit, fuck them. But there's also millions of people with really hardcore economic anxiety who are like, who can help? And the Democrats don't listen. And a lot of the left doesn't listen. It's all fine and good to be a successful streamer who advocates for this shit, but at the same time is not picking up on this, is not actually realizing, why are you not penetrating into the minds of a lot more people? Because you should, because you are actually going to speak to their economic anxiety. But when you say sentences in like English that the average person who doesn't have the privilege of also having a college degree or a university degree has no idea the shit that you're saying, or you're just condescending, or you're just basically elitist, and you're basically sitting there being like, yeah, it's too bad that all of you are bigots of the highest order who don't understand that. That's a trap that I have fallen into so much, because at the end of the day, look what happens if everyone starts to believe that. Like, I saw those posts by people being like, Democrats above $100,000 voted, white Democrats voted for Harris Waltz, who made over $100,000 a year. College educated voters voted overwhelmingly for the Democrats. They knew because they're educated. Okay, but then like, that's not going to stop people who aren't educated from looking for help. And it's not going to stop them feeling rejected by the very people who say they care about this kind of shit, who are simultaneously condescending to them while at the same time saying, I'm doing this for you, by the way. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to end income inequality, end class oppression. That's what I'm fighting for. And so I'm going to speak in an elitist language from theory books that I expect you to read as well, and I expect you to get up on your theory. Hopefully, when you find free time in your weekend, when you're not working your jobs or working or trying to pay your bills or pay your medical bills or fucking not get swarmed with expenses, you'll have time to read some really deep books that were written hundreds of years ago by white academics and understand them. Hopefully you'll do that, and then you'll get on board and understand why the left is right, because we're always right. And like, this is not the purpose of any of this, though. We're not supposed to be condescending elitists who speak down to everyone as if we have the answers, but you don't, and know that we're also correct. But at the same time, what does that do if people can't get that message, don't understand that message, feel condescended to, and at the end of the day are still asking for help? It's like if someone is asking you for help and your answer to them is get better, do better, learn better, know better, you should know better, you should have known better, you should know that Trump is going to fuck you over worse than the Democrats would have, you should have understood the nuance of the trolley problem, or understood the nuance of being able to determine between picking your enemy or picking the lesser of two evils, and understand how this whole game is played, while at the same time collectively building strength by organizing and like all this kind of stuff. It's like, but you just called me a Nazi, you called me a racist, you called me a bigot, and blah, blah, blah. And I honestly, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do, because I really get two options. And all that I really get in terms of my regular media feed is these really, really commercial mainstream podcasts with the people I feel safe with. And right now I'm listening to Joe Rogan, and he's telling me that it's all a scam. And it feels like it's all a scam. He's telling me that the media lies to me. It feels like the media lies to me. And then he's telling me that apparently this Donald Trump guy, he's like a little crazy, but he also is what you need to shake up the system. Maybe he's right. Maybe that's what I need to do. And I'm not doing it because like I hate black people. I'm not doing it because I hate women. I'm doing it because I fucking can't buy groceries for my kids, and I feel like I need a change. This could do it, that kind of thing. Well, then, like, being elitist is great for your own like feelings. It's great for your own like, well, I was right. Yeah, I can rest on that. They own and control all the levers of power now. They got all the branches of government, and they've stacked the courts and the Supreme Court, and they're rich as fuck, and they're the elites all at once. All of that. But I'm right. So, yeah, it feels good. It feels good to have been right. Because, yeah, I can make a prediction. Trump is not going to make things better for the lower classes. Trump is not going to make things better for the working class. And Trump is going to make things better for the extreme wealthy, corporations, and the rich. I'll make a prediction about that, and I'll be right. And then afterwards, I can be like, you know what? Once again, I was right. Because I'm educated and I'm read and I know this and I can understand this. And you little ants can't. You little plebs, you know, that kind of shit. Cool, but they control it and they're richer and more powerful now. Well, I get to be smug. Like, I would rather help people or get more people to learn that than be smug. Because being smug leaves them to gain and control everything and get more power, and the smugness is worthless ultimately. Like, cool, you made a prediction and it's coming quasi true. We need to do a lot of shit. This is not an easy problem with an easy solution, and everyone wants an easy solution. I think that's the other big thing. Like, I would love to be able to say, like, there is just one answer, and the answer is something we can all work on. And if we do the one thing, then we'll fix it. And it's the one thing. No, there needs to be an outreach to youth, and there needs to be an outreach to youth in those same accessible areas. Video games, UFC, movies, all that shit. Yeah, that's what, like, you know, the young men who are having their minds poisoned by the right, they enjoy that stuff. They want to play a video game, relax, and have fun, because life is hard, even for kids. It was hard when I was a teenager. I know what it feels like to be a loser. I know what it feels like to be scared to go to school. I know what it feels like to be rejected by women. I know what it feels like to be in love, and then at the same time be made fun of that, and at the same time have people and you know, your love interest reject you and go for the fucking douchebags where it just doesn't make sense to you. Like, oh, that guy's such an asshole. I'm a nice guy. Why is she always going for the mean guy? I remember what that all feels like. It feels like shit, but I also remember how how like I liked escaping into video games, and now modern video games are all online. They weren't online back then. I had Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, all that kind of shit. It was not an online experience. Now it is, and now there are people in those experiences who are going to try and become your digital friends, who are also trying to bring you into their discords, where they're going to try and manipulate you and stuff. So there has to be an outreach in that category. There has to be outreaches in other categories. There has to be organizing. There has to be people who organize locally. There's not one simple solution to a multifaceted problem of which this is. And it's not as if it's hopeless. Right now is the time to start organizing, to start establishing and start growing independent media, left stream media, left stream online media, content creators. You have content creators that you like, that you respect, that are putting out good shit. Promote them. Tell your friends about them. Share their shit. Put their shit onto your own social medias. Expand the reach of leftists and leftist content creators who want to talk about and help change people's minds. But understand that, again, it can't just be that. There is a deficit of UFC and sports fans, for example, who are also leftists, who also review that kind of shit. There is a deficit of movie review channels who are also leftists, who aren't speaking about lefty shit, but every now and then when they talk about a movie, hey, did you see the movie Parasite? Well, I got to tell you something about that. You might not realize that, but blah, blah, blah. There's a deficit of that. There's a deficit of video game reviewers and video game streamers and video game people who make reviews and content on YouTube who are also lefties, who not only will talk about video games, but don't want to talk all day about how women are ruining them, who actually love and respect women as equal human beings and want to put out a review for a video game and talk about how it's really fucking cool that this game features a woman protagonist in a strong role that isn't simply centered around her tits. It's really cool that she's actually got a multifaceted personality that has actually inspirational ideas and dreams and wants to do problem solving, that again, she doesn't unlock the code with their magnificent giant boobies. That's great. I like playing these games. It's nice that she's hot too, because I'm also very attracted to women and enjoy huge boobies, but that's not the centerpiece of her character, and it's not the actual concentration. It's not like, I like this game because the girl is hot. It's actually really cool that she's a fucking human being with deep, that there's a deficit of that as well. What? Some of your heroes. I bet you didn't know this, but if you grew up like me and loved Wolverine, I fucking loved Wolverine. For some reason, I really identified with him, and I couldn't figure it out why as a kid. Well, I'm going to explain to you. There's a lot of things about that character that you might not know. Did you know that Wolverine is actually a version of masculinity where he is incredibly strong and powerful and invincible in so many ways, while being so emotionally vulnerable at the same time and so emotionally troubled? That's the dynamic of his character. Did you know that he's been an inspiration to bisexual men, to pansexual men, to gay men for a very long time, because his character has been explored in a number of ways, including a polyamorous relationship with Cyclops and Jean Grey? Did you know that his unrequited love, or sometimes semi-requited love, that he has for Jean Grey and the complications that come from that dynamic have been a core and central piece of his character? That the very rejection that he often feels at the hands of some kind of Chad-like pretty boy is part of why maybe I identified with him so much growing up, because I had that too, where I didn't fully understand it, but I knew what it was like to love someone and not have them met back. And I saw that in Wolverine, who also was this idea of masculinity that embodied so many aspects of that character, while at the same time having so much depth in all of this. That should be a channel. That should be a video. That should be a piece of content that people can watch and be like, what? He's gay. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but there's an actual cover that was actually not disapproved by Marvel. Marvel didn't care about this at all, where the artist of the cover intentionally drew Nightcrawler nude and Wolverine staring at Nightcrawler from the corner of the screen with a beer to indicate his erection as he stared like that with his giant fucking muscly hairy body with his arms and everything like that, and he's looking over at him, and the beer signifies his erection with the naked Nightcrawler on the cover, and Marvel didn't censor it or talk about it all because they didn't care, because they just thought it was funny, and they just published it, and that was a comic book cover, and that's considered a key part of LGBTQ plus history, that this exists and was a front page cover of a Wolverine magazine. And that's cool. This is a very fascinating part of history, and this is neat, and like, honestly, all of that should be in a video of a content creator that someone can look towards and then be like, oh, neat. So the idea of masculinity doesn't have to be just one size fit all. Doesn't have to be closed off from emotion. No, Wolverine is very emotionally damaged, always was, and that's part of a central piece of his character. Wolverine was very physically strong, just like men are supposed to be, but also had so much baggage that he couldn't talk about with people until he met people that could read his fucking mind. That was the point at which he could start to explore these things, as both Xavier and Jean Grey didn't need him to say it out loud because he has to be like this, yeah, bub, I'm coming to get you. They could actually read his mind and find out how damaged he was emotionally. And that's a really neat exploration of someone's depth. And this was in a comic book for kids and a cartoon for kids and movies for teenagers and kids and adults. And this is fascinating and neat and beautiful. And we should cherish it, you know? Going really off on Wolverine here. I watched a lot of and read a lot of Wolverine over the weekend. I got deep in. And he's Canadian too. And he's a Canadian superhero. Hulk issue 181, I think, introduces the Canadian Wolverine and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's woke. By the way, all the hatred of wokeness, all the you know, condemnation of all things woke, that shit was woke as fuck, and no one thought of it as woke or woke being a bad thing or negative. This stuff was just woven into the depth of the character, a character that's so mainstream as Wolverine. My Wolverine round. Didn't think I was going.
Hey, if you'd like to unlock secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content, go to patreon.com/The Serfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Puppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Travis McClinton, Trincell, Words Greenwood, with additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.